Part 4 of The Matchless Orinda. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Elizabeth Klett. Poems by the most deservedly admired Mrs. Katherine Phillips, The Matchless Orinda. Part 4. Poems 31 to 40. 31. In memory of that excellent person, Mrs. Mary Lloyd of Bodidrist, in Denbighshire, who died November 13th, 1656, after she came thither from Pembrokeshire. I cannot hold, for though to write were rude, yet to be silent were ingratitude, and folly too, for if posterity should never hear of such an one as thee, and only know this age's brutish fame, they would think virtue nothing but a name. And though far abler pens must her define, yet her adoption hath engaged mine, and I must own where merit shines so clear, 'tis hard to write, but harder to forbear. Sprung from an ancient and an honoured stem, who lent her lustre, and she paid it them, who still in great and noble things appeared, whom all their country loved, and yet they feared. Matched to another good and great as they, who did their country both oblige and sway. Behold herself, who had without dispute more than both families could contribute. What earthly beauty grief and age had broke, her lovely relics and her offspring spoke. She was by nature and her parents' care a woman long before most others are. But yet that antedated season she improved to virtue, not to liberty. For she was still in either state of life, meek as a virgin, prudent as a wife. And she well knew, although so young and fair, justly to mix obedience, love, and care. Whilst to her children she did still appear so wisely kind, so tenderly severe, that they from her rule and example brought a native honour, which she stamped and taught. Nor can a single pen enough commend so kind a sister, and so clear a friend. A wisdom from above did her secure, which as 'twas peaceable was ever pure. And if well-ordered commonwealths must be patterns for every private family, her house, ruled by her hand and by her eye, might be a pattern for a monarchy. Solomon's wisest woman less could do, she built her house, but this preserved hers too. She was so pious that when she did die, she scarce changed place, I'm sure not company. Her zeal was primitive and practice too. She did believe, and pray, and read, and do. A firm and equal soul she had engrossed, just even to those that disobliged her most. She grew to love those wrongs she did receive, for giving her the power to forgive. Her alms I may admire, but not relate, but her own works shall praise her in the gate. Her life was chequered with afflictive years, and even her comfort seasoned in her tears. Scarce for a husband's loss her eyes were dried, and that loss by her children half supplied, when heaven was pleased not these dear props to afford, but tore most off by sickness or by sword. She, who in them could still their father boast, was a fresh widow every son she lost. Litigious hands did her of right deprive, that after all 'twas penance to survive. She still these griefs had nobly undergone, which few support at all, but better none. Such a submissive greatness who can find? A tender heart with so resolved a mind. But she, though sensible, was still the same, of a resigned soul, untainted fame. Nor were her virtues coarsely set, for she outdid example in civility. To bestow blessings, to oblige, relieve, was all for which she could endure to live. She had a joy higher in doing good, than they to whom the benefit accrued. Though none of honour had a quicker sense, never had woman more of complaisance. Yet lost it not in empty forms, but still her nature noble was, her soul genteel. And as in youth she did attract, for she the verdure had without the vanity, so she in age was mild and grave to all, was not morose, but was majestical. Thus from all other women she had skill to draw their good, but nothing of their ill. And since she knew the mad tumultuous world saw crowns reversed, temples to ruin hurled, she in retirement chose to shine and burn, as a bright lamp shut in some Roman urn. At last, when spent with sickness, grief, and age, her guardian angel did her death presage. so that by strong impulse she cheerfully dispensed blessings and went home to die, that so she might, when to that place removed, marry his ashes whom she ever loved. She died, gained a reward, and paid a debt, the sun himself did never brighter set. Happy were they that knew her, and her end more happy they that did from her descend. A double blessing they may hope to have, once she conveyed to them, and one she gave. All that are hers are therefore sure to be, blessed by inheritance and legacy. A royal birth had less advantage been, 'tis more to die a saint than live a queen. 32. To the truly competent judge of honour, Lucasia, upon a scandalous libel made by J. Honour, which differs man from man much more Than reason differed him from beasts before, Suffers this common fate of all things good, By the blind world to be misunderstood. For as some heathens did their gods confine, While in a bird or beast they made their shrine, Deposed their deities to earth, and then Offered them rites that were too low for men, so those who most to honour sacrifice, Prescribe to her a mean and weak disguise, Imprison her to others' false applause, And from opinion do receive their laws. While that inconstant idol they implore, Which in one breath can murder and adore. From hence it is that those who honour court, And place her in a popular report, Do prostitute themselves to sordid fate, And from their being oft degenerate. And thus their tenets too are low and bad, As if 'twere honourable to be mad. Or that their honour had concerned been, But to conceal, not to forbear, a sin. But honour is more great and more sublime, Above the battery of fate or time. We see in beauty certain airs are found, Which not one grace can make, but all compound. Honour's to the mind as beauty to the sense, The fair result of mixed excellence. As many diamonds together lie, And dart one lustre to amaze the eye, So honour is that bright ethereal ray, Which many stars doth in one light display. But as that beauty were as truly sweet, Were there no tongue to praise, no eye to see it, And 'tis the privilege of a native spark, To shed a constant splendour in the dark. So honour is its own reward and end, And satisfied within cannot descend To beg the suffrage of a vulgar tongue, Which by commending virtue doth it wrong. It is the charter of a noble action, That the performance giveth satisfaction. Other things are below it, for from a clown Would any conqueror receive his crown? 'Tis restless cowardice to be a drudge To an uncertain and unworthy judge. So the chameleon, who lives on air, Is of all creatures most inclined to fear. But peaceable reflections on the mind Will in a silent shade contentment find. Honour keeps court at home, and doth not fear To be condemned abroad if quitted there. While I have this retreat, 'tis not the noise Of slander, though believed, can wrong my joys. There is advantage in't, for gold uncoined Had been unuseful, not with glory shined. This stamped my innocency in the ore, Which was as much, but not so bright, before. Till an alembic wakes and outward draws, The strength of sweets lies sleeping in their cause. So this gave me an opportunity To feed upon my own integrity. And though their judgment I must still disclaim, Who can nor give nor take away of fame, Yet I'll appeal unto the knowing few, Who dare be just, and rip my heart to you. 33. To Antenor, on a paper of mine Which J. threatens to publish to prejudice him. Must then my crimes become thy scandal too? Why sure the devil hath not much to do, The weakness of the other charge is clear, When such a trifle must bring up the rear. But this is mad design, for who before Lost his repute upon another's score? My love and life I must confess are thine, But not my errors, they are only mine. And if my faults must be for thine allowed, It will be hard to dissipate the cloud. For Eve's rebellion did not Adam blast, Until himself forbidden fruit did taste. 'Tis possible this magazine of hell, Whose name would turn a verse into a spell, Whose mischief is congenial to his life, May yet enjoy an honourable wife. Nor let his ill be reckoned as her blame, Nor yet my follies blast Antenor's name. But if those lines a punishment could call, lasting and great as this dark lantern's gall, alone I'd court the torments with content, to testify that thou art innocent. So if my ink through malice proved a stain, my blood should justly wash it off again. But since that mint of slander could invent to make so dull a rhyme his instrument, let verse revenge the quarrel. But he's worse than wishes, and below a poet's curse. And more than this wit knows not how to give, let him be still himself, and let him live. 34. Rosania shadowed whilst Mrs. Mary Awbrey. If any could my dear Rosania hate, they only should her character relate. Truth shined so bright there, that an enemy would be a better orator than I. Love stifles language, and I must confess I had said more if I had loved less. Yet the most critical who that face see will ne'er suspect a partiality. Others by time and by degrees persuade, but her first look doth every heart invade. She hath a face so eminently bright, would make a lover of an anchorite, a face where conquest mixed with modesty are both completed in divinity. Not her least glance but sets a heart on fire, and checks it if it should too much aspire. Such is the magic of her looks, the same beam doth both kindle and refine our flame. If she doth smile, no painter e'er would take another rule when he would mercy make. And heaven to her such splendour hath allowed, that no one posture can her beauty cloud. For if she frown, none but would fancy then justice descended here to punish men. Her common looks I know not how to call any one grace, they are composed of all. And if we mortals could the doctrine reach, her eyes have language, and her looks do teach. And as in palaces the outmost worst, rooms entertain our wonder at the first, but once within the presence chamber door, we do despise whate'er we saw before. So when you with her mind acquaintance get, you'll hardly think upon the cabinet. Her soul, that ray shot from the Deity, doth still preserve its native purity, which earth can neither threaten nor allure, nor by false joys defile it or obscure. The innocence which in her heart doth dwell, angels themselves can only parallel. More gently soft than is an evening shower, and in that sweetness there is couched a power, which scorning pride doth think it very hard that modesty should need so mean a guard. Her honour is protected by her eyes, as the old flaming sword kept Paradise. Such constancy of temper, truth, and law guides all her actions, that the world may draw from her one soul the noblest precedent of the most safe, wise, virtuous government. And as the highest element is clear from all the tempests which disturb the air, so she above the world and its rude noise, above our storms a quiet calm enjoys. Transcendent things her noble thoughts sublime, above the faults and trifles of the time. Unlike those gallants which take far less care to have their souls than make their bodies fair. Who, sick with too much leisure, time do pass with these two books, Pride and a Looking Glass. Plot to surprise men's hearts, their power to try, and call that love which is mere vanity. But she, although the greatest murderer, for every glance commits a massacre, yet glories not that slaves her power confess, but wishes that her monarchy were less. And if she love, it is not thrown away, as many do only to spend the day. But hers is serious, and enough alone to make all love become religion. And to her friendship she so faithful is, that 'tis her only blot and prejudice. For envy's self could never error see, within that soul bating her love to me. Now as I must confess the name of friend to her that all the world doth comprehend, is a most wild ambition, so for me to draw her picture is flat lunacy. Oh, I must think the rest, for who can write, or into words confine, what's infinite? 35. To the Queen of Inconstancy, Regina Collier, in Antwerp. Unworthy, Since thou hast decreed thy love and honour both shall bleed, my friendship could not choose to die in better time or company. What thou hast got by this exchange thou wilt perceive when the revenge shall by those treacheries be made, for which our faith thou hast betrayed. When thy idolaters shall be true to themselves and false to thee, thou'lt see that in heart merchandise value, not number, makes the price. Live to that day, my innocence shall be my friendship's just defence. For this is all the world can find, while thou wert noble, I was kind. The desperate game that thou dost play at private ruins cannot stay, the horrid treachery of that face will sure undo its native place. Then let the Frenchman never fear the victory while thou art there, for if sins will call judgments down, thou hast enough to stock the town. 36. To my excellent Lucasia, on our friendship. I did not live until this time crowned my felicity, when I could say without a crime, I am not thine, but thee. This carcass breathed, and walked, and slept, so that the world believed there was a soul the motions kept, but they were all deceived. For as a watch by art is wound to motion, such was mine. But never had Orinda found a soul till she found thine, which now inspires, cures, and supplies, and guides my darkened breast. For thou art all that I can prize, my joy, my life, my rest. No bridegroom's nor crown conqueror's mirth to mine compared can be. They have but pieces of this earth, I've all the world in thee. Then let our flame still light and shine, and no false fear control, as innocent as our design, immortal as our soul. 37. Rosania's private marriage. It was a wise and kind design of fate, that none should this day's glory celebrate, for 'twere in vain to keep a time which is above the reach of all solemnities. The greatest actions pass without a noise, and tumults but profane diviner joys. Silence with things transcendent nearest suits, the greatest emperors are served by mutes. And as in ancient time the deities to their own priests revealed no mysteries, until they were from all the world retired, and in some cave made fit to be inspired, so when Rosania, who hath them outvied, and with more justice might be deified, who if she had their rites and altars we should hardly think it were idolatry, had found a breast that did deserve to be receptacle of her divinity, it was not fit the gazing world should know when she conveyed herself to him, or how. An eagle safely may behold the sun, when weak eyes are with too much light undone. Now as in oracles were understood, not the priests only, but the common good, so her great soul would not imparted be, but in design of general charity. She now is more diffusive than before, and what men then admired, they now adore. For this exchange makes not her power less, but only fitter for the world's address. May then that mind, which if we will admit the universe one soul must sure be it, inform this all, which till she shined out, lay as drowsy men do in a cloudy day, and honour, virtue, reason so dispense, that all may owe them to her influence. And while this age is thus employed, may she scatter new blessings for posterity. I dare not any other wish prefer, for only her bestowing adds to her. And to a soul so in herself complete as would be wronged by any epithet, whose splendours fixed unto her chosen sphere, and filled with love and satisfaction there, what can increase the triumph, but to see the world her convert and her history. 38. Injuria amicitiae. Lovely apostate, what was my offence? Or am I punished for obedience? Must thy strange rigour find as strange a time? The act and season are an equal crime. Of what thy most ingenious scorns could do, must I be subject and spectator too? Or were the sufferings and sins too few to be sustained by me, performed by you? Unless, with Nero, your uncurbed desire be to survey the Rome you set on fire. While wounded for and by your power, I at once your martyr and your prospect die. This is my doom, and such a riddling fate As all impossibles doth complicate. For obligation here is injury, Constancy, crime, friendship, a heresy. And you appear so much on ruin bent, Your own destruction gives you now content. For our twin spirits did so long agree, You must undo yourself to ruin me. And like some frantic goddess you're inclined To raze the temple where you are enshrined. And what's the miracle of cruelty, Kill that which gave you immortality. While glorious friendship, whence your honour springs, Lies gasping in the crowd of common things. And I'm so odious, that for being kind, Doubled and studied murders are designed. Thy sins all paradox, for shouldst thou be Thyself again, thou wouldst be severe to me. For thy repentance coming now so late Would only change, and not relieve my fate. So dangerous is the consequence of ill, Thy least of crimes is to be cruel still. For of thy smiles I should yet more complain, If I should live to be betrayed again. Live then, fair tyrant, in security, From both my kindness and revenge be free. While I, who to the swains had sung thy fame, And taught each echo to repeat thy name, Will now my private sorrow entertain, To rocks and rivers, not to thee complain. And though before our union cherish'd me, 'Tis now my pleasure that we disagree. For from my passion your last rigour grew, And you kill'd me because I worshipped you. But my worst vows shall be your happiness, And not to be disturbed by my distress. And though it would my sacred flames pollute, To make my heart a scorned prostitute, Yet I'll adore the author of my death, And kiss the hand that robs me of my breath. 39. To Regina Collier, on her cruelty to Philaster. Triumphant queen of scorn! How ill doth sit In all that sweetness such injurious wit! Unjust and cruel! What can be your prize, To make one heart a double sacrifice? Where such ingenious rigour you do show To break his heart, you break his image too. And by a tyranny that's strange and new, You murder him because he worships you. No pride can raise you, or can make him start, Since love and honour do enrich his heart. Be wise and good, lest when fate will be just, She should o'erthrow those glories in the dust. Rifle your beauties, and you thus forlorn, Make a cheap victim to another's scorn. And in those fetters which you do upbraid, Yourself a wretched captive may be made. Redeem the poisoned age, let it be seen, There's no such freedom as to serve a queen. But you, I see, are lately Roundhead grown, And whom you vanquish you insult upon. 40. To Philaster, on his melancholy for Regina. Give over now thy tears, thou vain and double murderer, For every minute of thy pain wounds both thyself and her. Then leave this dulness, for 'tis our belief, Thy queen must cure, or deserve thy grief. End of Part 4.